Alright, so we're still on the front end of our application, and what I want to do in this video that I want to simulate the login of the user. So the user enter their email, password, and click on login, and it authenticates that user and pushes the user to the dashboard. Alright, so I'm gonna change this to email, as I just said earlier, and we won't be getting into anything major because to have to store the user information and stuff like that, we'll need to send it to the API at least, and also we may have to do like either a local storage, storing the user data in a local storage, or uh, in Vuex, and that's not the scope of this video at least. So let's get right into that. So I'm gonna first of all, we need to set up where the data is going to be stored. So I'm gonna have our data method here return the object or objects. So normally what I do is I have the login uh, object wrapped with whatever we're taking from the user form. So one thing that I want to have first, however, is that user. So initially I want it to be false. So we're going to toggle that to true whenever the user clicks on the login button. As I said, we're only simulating the login process. So I'm going to have a login object here, which is going to have an email, and this is going to be an empty string. It's also going to have a password. It's going to be an empty string just the same, and we have where we're going to store the data. So now we're gonna have to get the data. So I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm thinking about it. I think this is only needed for PHP. Not 100% sure. Really not 100% sure, but I know that it's not needed. I know that it's not needed for Vue, because what we use in Vue is the V model. I'm just gonna change this to email, because what we use in Vue is the V model. So that's one thing that I know. So I know that we don't really necessarily need that. So let's do a V model, which is going to be what's going to be mapping. I say map, but binding or login information, the information that we're getting from the form to or data object there. I'm gonna get rid of these. I can get rid of this as well, because by default the text field should be text, obviously. And let's get the password now. Let's get a password. All right, awesome. So this is pretty much all we need at this moment. So what I want to do is I want to show you how we're going to get how that data is being passed down to here. So a cool tool that you want to have, and this is reloading, but that's fine. A cool tool that you want to have is the Vuex DevTools. So if I should go over to add-ons, you will see that I have it here, a Chrome and Firefox DevTool extension. So it's a really good tool, especially if you're doing mostly dynamic stuff, or something that you have to use is the Vuex state, especially in that sense. I would say you really need to have this thing here. So that's that. All you have to do is just go and search for that and just install it. Here, all we have to do is just right click, inspect element, and then we just go to view because I have it installed already, and then we just look at the component that has this, which will be the login form, and then we'll see the data. So on home at login form, you can see now we have in the data hash our function here. You can see that we have login, email, password, and the user that we have here. So this is how we get the data. So if I should now type email, I'm gonna type a valid email and a password, very insecure password. You can see that it's now typing in here. It takes a minute here, but or a little while, what I mean. But however, if you should log in, then the data is actually being captured already. So it's not nothing to worry about, that you're not really seeing anything here. It's already being captured. So that's pretty much that. The password is not showing. It's weird, but unless I didn't map it, probably forgot to map it. Let me just no, I think I did, but that's not really a big. Oh, I made a mistake. So this should be logging that password. So yeah, so now we should see, but we're not gonna go back there just yet. Now what I want to do is to get the authentication up, and we want to do this on the outside here, outside of the data function. So we're gonna have a methods hash, which is going to have a function, and this function is, I'm just gonna call it authenticate, and all this function is going to do is that on submit, what we're going to do is we're going to get this user, and then we're going to change it to the inverse of whatever it is. So we're going to change it to so if it's true, then we're going to change it to false. So that's essentially what we're saying here. Yeah, what I could do is I could toggle it up here, so whenever we click on this button here, I could actually change it from here, or I could actually change it from in the form. But I think because we're going to be sending the data to via API, then this is the best thing, because this is a simulation. So that's the best thing to do, is just to start at a good start here. The next thing I want to do is to push the user to the dashboard. So if this user, and this is basically saying if it is true, as you can see, the default is true. So if this is true, or we could do this, we could say if true, and that still would do the same, but that's just more extra data. So we can say that if this is true, then what we want to do is we want to do a this router push, and what we're doing is essentially we're just pushing to a view or whatever. The view that I'm pushing this to is the dashboard view. So now what we have to do is come up here at the form, and we want to ensure that we get this. So what I want to do is not an unclick. I think that would be not really. It wouldn't be a good idea here. It would be on the button would be a better idea. But what I want to do, because this is the better one, we can do a V on, and we can do that. But the shortcut that is normally used is this @ symbol, which means the same thing. So we can say at submit or on submit, whichever. We want to prevent the default action, which is to reload the page. Remember, we're using a single page application, so we're not doing much reloading. So we want to prevent that default, and then we're going to use the authenticate function. So this is how we'll be doing this. The thing now that I found is that this v action from Vuetify is on the outside of the form, and before I continue that, what you want to have is to ensure that the type of the button is actually submit. So you want to ensure that this is submit, or else it won't work. But as I was saying, the V card action is outside of the V form, which then it does not work in a sense, because the submit is picking up what's inside the form in a sense. So that's what is happening. But I think if we should do an unclick, then that should probably work. But I don't want to do the unclick. I think I prefer the @submit. I think I don't know if it's better, but it's just not what I normally use, and it really doesn't change anything in regards to the look of the actual thingy form. It doesn't really change anything at all. So that's pretty much that for this. I saved it, so it should be loading now. So we're gonna head over to the browser and then we can check it out. So one thing though is that you're not going to see the change in changing this from true. What I probably do is I probably save it in local storage so you can see it, but maybe not now. Uh, maybe there was a little bit of shift, but that's cool. But what will happen essentially is that it will just push the user, so we'll know that the user actually changes to true. So I'm gonna put in a email and a password. And what I could do is actually I could send it up in a prop, but I'm not really big a major fan of props. So what I prefer is the Vuex the store. So I normally just use the store instead of props. But that's that. So you can see now the password is being typed, but I'm not gonna wait on that. If I now click on uh, the login button, what it'll do is just push me to the dashboard page. So now you can see that I'm at the dashboard. So that's pretty cool. I wish we could push the data also so you could see that name that was entered and stuff like that. So that would be some v binding and stuff. But that's pretty much that for this for that. It's pretty simple. We'll look at how we can actually do the real thing eventually. But that's pretty much that for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.